We found out about Miles' diagnosis very early. We were very lucky in that regard. One of the challenges for many families who are dealing with Fragile X syndrome is that it takes a while for folks to learn what's really going on. In our case, we benefited from the fact that this is a genetic condition, and his first cousin was diagnosed with having Fragile X syndrome, which meant that we had a reason to test his cord blood. And we found out in his second month of life that this journey was going to be different for us. And we think that was an extraordinarily fortunate thing, because one of the greatest things for children who are developing with Fragile X syndrome is early intervention. And the early intervention team, which came from some professionals, supported by professionals here at DHHS, as well as we are extraordinarily lucky to live in such proximity to both Duke and UNC, and the extraordinary work that they're doing around Fragile X syndrome, and being able to support families who have questions, families who have need to be seen by a provider who understands. And so we count ourselves very lucky, because Miles was able to get support from his earliest months of life. He still experienced tremendous delays in meeting the milestones that most children meet. He is a talkative young man, a very social young man. He meets no strangers, and it makes me smile every day when I get a chance to let his light shine and interact with other folks. We weren't sure when he began his life, and we got the diagnosis, how much talking he would do. Luckily, he's very talkative. Those milestones came later. We continue to work through that. He's educated in a separate setting. So he's not with typically developing peers most of his school day. That's something we'd like to see improve over time. He just recently became a big boy in terms of mastering some toileting milestones. And so he now sleeps in big boy underwear, just like many of his typically developing peers. And that was a great triumph for us in his development. These are the kind of things that we wait years to celebrate, when many of our friends and neighbors who have children the same age have celebrated these milestones a long time ago. For us, for those of us who have Fragile X loved ones, the journey has to be unique and special, and we have to resist the temptation to compare our stories to other people. But it is a whole group of folks who reinforce us, because when we're trying to compare ourselves to other families and our child to other children, it's the North Carolina Fragile X Foundation that gave us a lot of hope. There was a moment where we were at a picnic, and I'd worked in disability for a long time, but when it comes to your own house, it's different. And I got a chance to talk to a young man named Mark. Mark was an adult living with Fragile X syndrome. And he was all excited about talking to me about Carolina's Panthers football for hours. And I'm tearing up right now. That is one of the most special afternoons of my life. Because when I was given this diagnosis and we began this journey, I wasn't sure what adulthood would look like at all. And I do dream of independence. I dream of the opportunity for Miles to go to some sort of a sheltered and supported college program like we have in a few in the state. And I dreamed of him having some sort of opportunity to give back his beautiful personality in some sort of a work role like Adam has at the bowling alley. But I'd never met an adult with Fragile X. And so it was at that picnic, the first picnic that we attended, in the conversation with Mark, that I began to see possibility. And for my family, it was an inspiration that continues to burn to this day. When we blow out candles tomorrow at this birthday cake, I'll be thinking about Mark, and I'll be thinking about aiming towards the kind of adult life that Mark enjoys. Unfortunately, not all of us can have quite the same level of abilities that Mark has, but he was an inspiration to me, as so many other adults in this room included, living with Fragile X syndrome have been to me and my family. We represent the early stages of this journey, but we are inspired by those in the network who have lived it for longer.